Hi, I'm here today at Clackamas Lake taking a look at some beautiful St. Johns Wort just in its peak. As you can see, there's lots of small buds still left on the plant and it's beginning to flower. This is the time where you would want to harvest your St. Johns Wort. I've just come to swim though because it's a beautiful lake. But I'm going to take you back to my home and show you some of the St. Johns Wort I have collected up in the mountains, and we're going to make some tincture. I've taken a detour out here to the Boardman wetlands, my wetlands, to show you what is not St. Johns Wort. This is another flower that's growing similar color, similar area, blooms around the same time. This is tansy. You don't want to pick this. You can see it's much more daisy-like and has these big kind of kale-like leaves. Nothing at all like what you see in the St. Johns Wort. They're not as lacy. They don't have big beautiful spikes in the middle. You don't want to get these two mixed up. Hi, Dr. Curry here. We're back in my kitchen and we're going to make some St. Johns Wort tincture. I've got some gathered and washed here in the sink, and we're going to process that and put it in some bottles, set it out in the sun for a little. Here's the washed St. Johns Wort, and I'm going to transfer that over to a chopping board. I'm going to cut that into more manageable pieces that I can put in the blender. So for this part, we just want to get those chopped down to manageable sizes. Remember, you're taking the top third of the St. Johns Wort plant in flower when there's as many of these small buds as possible. Earlier, the better. And we're going to take that, we're going to put that into the blender. We're going to put it in with some Everclear, some very high proof alcohol that will be able to pull out all the constituents fully. Now, interestingly enough, St. John's Wort is supposedly named after St. John the Baptist, and his birthday on June 24th is supposed to coincide with the time that the St. John's Wort comes out. So this right now, this batch is being made in early July. It's a very hot summer, and it's already a little late in the season, but I was able to find some lovely St. John's Wort buds. We're now going to pour the Everclear into the blender and give it all a spin. Okay, I've blended up this batch. I'm going to pour this over into the jar, and I'm also going to then pour as much of the liquid back off and into the blender to put some more material into it, because I really want my jar to be quite full of St. John's Wort, not just full of Everclear. Now, a simpler way of processing your St. John's Wort is simply to cut it up into little fine chunks, pretty darn fine chunks, small bits, and put that into the jar. That's a perfectly legitimate way of tincturing as well. Doesn't get quite the amount of surface area, but it is a lot easier to strain off at the end. Either way, you're going to want to add that to your jar. Over here you can see the layer that is herb. I would like to get that layer that is herb farther up into the jar. So I'm going to pour off some of this top liquid and add more of the chopped plant, and then add the liquid back in until it's totally full, green, fairly up to the top. Okay, here I have my finished jar of St. John's Wort tincture. You can see the green is going pretty much to the top. Actually, I've left a little bit of a layer right under the lid, but when I added the alcohol, it started to float. That will sink down. It'll sink down to where there's a layer of alcohol about that far. And down here at the bottom, you can see the one technique using the blender. Up at the top, it's more of the hand chop technique. I'm going to take this jar out and I'm going to put it in the sun for a couple weeks. The sun actually activates some of the constituents in St. John's Wort, making the tincture much more rich, much stronger. Okay, and here we are out in my garden. You can see to the left is the bottle of St. John's Wort we just tinctured. Over to the right is one that's been sitting out in the sun for about a week and a half. usually like to sit it out in the sun for a couple weeks before bringing it inside, letting it continue. You can see the color has gotten much more red. It's just a really deep red, and it's really extracted all the constituents, and the sun has changed them. So after your tincture has sun for a couple weeks, and overall it's about 6 to 8 weeks old, then you may decide to strain your tincture out. This is a pretty easy funnel with a strainer, but it can also get a cheesecloth or a gravy sack and squeeze the tincture material away from the vegetative material, and there you'll have your wonderful St. Johns Wort tincture that I hope will help you be happy and less stressed.